Well, we're back. CBC podcast, somewhat long overdue, possibly not. I'm not sure. It's been a while, but you guys are going to see a different lineup here. It's the A stars of the CBC. That's what I'm going to call us. We're like the tag team. We're like the Usos. We're like the Blackpool Combat Club without Wheeler Yuta. It's going to be the greatest show we've ever put on. Probably not. Either way, though, yeah, that'll be debatable.
It's like DX with just Triple H and Shawn Michaels. What happened to everybody else? Who knows?
Six has gone to WCW. Which one of the dudes is on gear? Are we gonna put that on Tristan? He's Billy Gunn. He's been suspended for a wellness violation.
Most likely.
He's the new Liver King. He claims Natty, but he's not.
Oh no.
Oh, no. So this is going to be one of those shows, everybody. We got a lot to cover, but before we get to that, as always, I am your host here of this fine established train wreck podcast. This is Armin. You guys can find my links down in the description below, in the link tree, all sorts of things that you could follow me on there and see what I'm talking about and what I'm posting. Recently, a lot of Marvel Legends stuff. It's all starting to come in from Hasbro, so go check that out. But I am joined by the HBK, who may or may not be faking a back injury like Shawn Michaels was in the late 90s, Ricardo.
Yes, I am somewhat alive right now. Whatever Armin said, follow the links, whatever that's down there. I don't know if Elon's Twitter is still in the links. Probably is. Hive is like a thing, but died. I don't know what happened to Hive.
Yeah.
This social media, I don't even know anymore. Follow my newspaper. I'm gonna start a newspaper, I guess.
extra, read all about it. 20. You're
Give
gonna
me
be
a
peddling
quarter.
it. Yeah, penny newspaper on the streets of New York. Oh, well,
Desperation.
at least on the streets of New York, penny newspapers, they could be good for like toilet paper. Because, man, I've
Blankets.
seen. Yeah. The economy is rough, everybody. The economy is freaking rough. What else has been rough? Which is gonna slowly go into our topics when we get to it. But boy, that DC, huh? Yeah.
Oh, which version of the DC we talking about?
Oh, so that's a good. Let's talk about the death of the DCEU, which, funny enough, never saw coming. I'll be honest with you.
No way.
Never saw coming. Never.
Can't believe it.
So, this is a long story, which is why we broke this down into 4 topics that we're going to talk about, and each one's kind of a different take on this. In this one, we're just going to talk about the bigger DCEU as a whole, what was, and essentially what happened. What ended up happening was, like a week ago at this point, it was the Hollywood Reporter that was first like, hey guys, check out this massive breakdown that we're going to update throughout the day. And at first it was like, DCEU is dead, Wonder Woman 3 canceled. And it was like, wait, what? And then it just continued to develop where they're like, James Gunn and Peter Safran essentially got in there, looked at everything, and just hit like the stamp of rejection on every single thing that was in development. It's like, okay. What was your initial reaction to all this news?
Well, regarding like the whole Wonder Woman 3 fiasco?
Honestly, let's start with that. Yeah.
I'm like, look, man, I'm not gonna lie. I honestly thought Wonder Woman 3 was already dead. Because it's been so long since like the announcement of 3. So I'm like, oh, I guess, it's gone forever, until Gal Gadot was like, oh yes, the next chapter is coming, blah 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 on Twitter. And literally, like, the next couple of hours, you find out it's canceled. I was like, wow. I was like, Gal Gadot reminded everybody Wonder Woman 3 was a thing.
So, the funniest thing that happened to me was somebody sent me an old thing I posted where literally 15 minutes before Iron Fist was canceled, I put up a video saying why Iron Fist Season 3 will be the best season so far. And somebody put the thing, be like, this might be worse time than this video, Armin. I was like, you know what? You got me there. Yeah, this was terrible. It's, like, I kind of like you. I thought Wonder Woman 3 was honestly dead when Patty Jenkins has been working on it for 2 years and even quit Star Wars to work on it because Star Wars didn't like what she was doing. And she's like, fine, I'm going to go do Wonder Woman. And then we hear everybody was like, Patty, this script is terrible. It's essentially Wonder Woman 84 times 2. And she was like, take it or leave it. And they're like, well, I guess we leave it because you get out. So
how much you want to bet the first sentence is Steve Trevor is back?
100%. 100%.
Pull the Palpatine. Palpatine is back, but he like why? How? It shook the universe.
Well, see,
probably would have been the exact same thing.
That's the thing. Because, that would have been a Fortnite event, right? Be like, get the exclusive Steve Trevor skin, and that's the plot point, just like Star Wars. It's, we don't need to explain this. It's too stupid. Like,
leave Chris Pine alone, Warner Brothers. It's time to leave him alone.
Dragging out his dead carcass again. It's been honestly kind of insane, like, with that news. But then on top of it, like, what else was there? Black Adam 2. That seems to be honestly dead in the water.
That is not like on that is not happening. People who kept telling me, I was like, they was like, oh, they would announce a sequel way later. I was like, look, when it comes to like comic book movies, usually a sequel is usually around the corner or will be mentioned. But it's not like James Gunn talks about Black Adam. He be liking and retweeting Shazam too. So we know which one is getting a threequel.
Yeah. And even recently, you had Zachary Levi at comic conventions and stuff being like, oh, I love James Gunn. We were friends before we were even directors and actors. We're great. It's like,
That's the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, it's... And the other thing I want to mention with this, which I thought was... I don't think it was kind of like an intention of this whole article, but that's kind of how it came out. And that's like, look, when it comes to the future of everything and what we're doing, Ben Affleck's Batman, that whole thing, that seems to be pretty much dead. Because even like last week, Ben Affleck was like, hey, me and Matt Damon are starting a new production company. We're not acting anymore to anything. We're just going to do stuff for ourselves. It was like, oh, he threw that out there. Like, yeah.
And then you got, the whole news regarding Aquaman franchise going down, deep underwater because, Jason Momoa is going to be Lobo officially. The whole Justice League lineup is like gone.
All right. The other thing I want to talk about, we're going to kind of break this down into, I guess, subdivisions of topics. Aquaman is dead? What? Like, okay. I guess, like...
Kill him off in the third movie?
Wait,
is there 3 movies? No, it's just only Aquaman 2, right?
Yeah, we're getting the second one. No, because the third one was never confirmed.
Oh, my God. They're going to kill Jason Momoa in the second movie?
It's going to be like the Poochie syndrome. Aquaman died on the way to Atlantis. He's played by somebody else now. Just pull a film cell across the screen. It's...
Another oil spill in the water. That's what killed Aquaman.
BP strikes again. Oh, no. They're attacking Atlantis with oil spills. But, okay, so I do want to talk about Aquaman because obviously that's WB's biggest franchise of all time. Like,
surprisingly.
People don't realize that Aquaman is their biggest film ever. Like 1.2 billion or whatever. Like, that film was big.
China loved that movie.
Yeah. It is a bold move to go, yeah, hey, Jason, we got a different role for you that you should actually be playing because you're essentially playing that character as Aquaman. Go play a Lobo while we do something else. And look, in my opinion, I think an Aquaman reboot with an actor that's more Aquaman-like and having Jason just be Jason as Lobo is a million times better. I think it's way better. Like, it's... I don't see how anybody could be against it, honestly. It's such a better choice, so...
honestly, with all the recasting, with how James Gunn is going about everything, recasting the whole Justice League, I have honestly no problem with. But I don't know if Henry Cavill feels the same way.
Yeah, it's... I mean, look, we'll talk about Henry Cavill in a little bit because that's a whole separate topic that we're going to get deep into.
Gotcha.
But the thing that kind of, you mentioned there that's kind of the same is there's a lot of uncertainty in regards to what all these actors are saying and doing. And one thing that happened with Jason Momoa was the moment that it was like days after James Gunn got on board. We saw him be like, oh, he just pitched me the greatest thing I've ever wanted to do. It's a perfect project. And then it was after that James Gunn posted that picture of Lobo. And it was like,
Yep.
They're definitely hinting at it. And I think that there's something there, honestly, for both franchises that to prosper and kind of live. And in my opinion, maybe this is just me, I think Jason Momoa as Aquaman made Aquaman a bigger deal than anything. Because I know a lot of women that went and saw Aquaman just because of Jason Momoa. Like,
I mean, I agree. I mean, like you see how Jason Momoa looks?
Yeah, like, you know,
he just spits money. Like a lot of his movies is just like, here's Jason Momoa.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's literally all his films.
And in my opinion, that's not a diss at Aquaman, because people know I love Aquaman. You know, my favorite DC character. But I think that giving Jason Momoa Lobo is smart because it will elevate Lobo to a whole new level, and Aquaman has already prospered from Jason Momoa, that if you reboot Aquaman, which it sounds like that's what they're going to do, you can still make money because people now know that Aquaman isn't a joke. So you can get somebody else that maybe needs a good career boost, or somebody that's also, you know, has a dominant career that can sell a film, and then you can double down on it. Because I'll be real with you, I don't see anybody else in Hollywood being able to play Lobo besides Jason Momoa. So
yeah, Jason Momoa is like an instant. Jason Momoa was like the instant like fan cast. Like if you, like obviously if you used to go like on Comic Vine or whatever, he was already like casted as Lobo.
Yeah, like no joke, I was fan casting Lobo with Jason Momoa when first season of Stargate Atlantis hit. Like that's how far back into fandom I go. There's probably groups out there like superhero hype forums where if you look deep enough, you're going to find an old account of mine where I had a Photoshop of him that's like crude 2004, you know, Jason Momoa Lobo. Like, I'm not kidding you. So, in my opinion,
weirdly with me, it was more like when he did the Conan movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's when I was like, oh, this dude would be great.
People also give him too much crap as Conan because he was perfect as Conan. So, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's... Honestly, I'm excited for both Aquaman and Lobo now more than I was before. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. Let's go into our next topic that we learned, and that's after 22 years of development, Batman Beyond is dead for an 18th time. Oh, this one hurts. This one hurts so bad.
See now with this news, right? I found out like because this would have technically happened like after Batgirl and the Flash or whatever, right? And when it seemed like this film, the Batman Beyond film, was gonna take place in modern day, and I was like, ew. I was like, if it doesn't look like Blade Runner or some neo-noir like Gotham City, why the hell would I want to watch a Batman Beyond movie?
Yeah.
I would have been disappointed as a Batman Beyond movie. You like, for example, we played the Arkham games. You know how the Arkham games has like the ugliest Batman Beyond costume known to man.
Yep.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see an armored up Batman Beyond.
So, going back and looking at reports, if you followed this whole story of Batman Beyond, it's interesting because rumors first suggested Michael Keaton is back and he will play Batman. He'll stay around. And Batgirl would be Batman Beyond. And people got really mad. What we learned was, in fact, that Batgirl was supposed to be his re-entry, and then he would bring in Terry McGinnis into the DCEU, and he would be the star, like co-star of Batman Beyond, while Batgirl was out there doing her own thing, and he was essentially just old man Bruce Wayne training a new Batman. So the stories all got compounded into something that wasn't true, but all the elements were there. And what really struck me interestingly was they were going to produce a third entry in the Tim Burton Batman series and then produce Batman Beyond. So we would have gotten more Keaton than ever before, but now everything's fell apart, and it's like, this is the one to me that really, again, this is the one that hurts me the most because, you know, people our age, we love Batman Beyond because there's a lot of nostalgia there, and there's like,
The intro alone is like 10 out of 10.
Yeah, like and like you said, there's this whole like noir, futuristic Blade Runner
Blade
aesthetic.
Runner, like
when you think of Batman Beyond, you picture in your head Batman in cyberpunk, and you're like, yeah, that's money. And
literally Batman Future. Like, why would I want to see a Terry McGinnis in modern time? For that, I could just see Nightwing take up the mantle.
Which apparently, if you want Nightwing, you gotta go watch Titans, and nobody watches Titans, so... Oh, that's unfortunate.
Oh, God. I didn't even know Titans was still a thing.
It unfortunately is, unfortunately. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on what could have been this whole Batman Beyond thing? And do you think there's still a chance? Like...
I think Batman Beyond is too much of a cult classic at this point. Batman Beyond is going to happen whether people like it or not. I know James Gunn is too much of a nerd to not let this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's animated or a video game, because everything is canon now. So Batman Beyond is going to happen. Now, regarding like the whole Michael Keaton, I feel bad for him. It's like ever since it's like DC throw him into the Flash. They canceled Batgirl. They canceled Batman Beyond. Like, the best superhero role he had recently was just Vulture. It's like, damn. And then Sony took Vulture and threw him in Morbius. Like leave Keaton alone at this point.
Bro, I forgot that happened. Now you ruined my day. I forgot Morbius. No.
Like, Keaton comes back into the comic book movie world just for him to get, like, thrown around like a piece of garbage he is. He's old. He's like in his 70s. Leave him alone. Put him in something good.
It's honestly,
or is he in his 80s?
Wild.
It's like either or.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still a chance Batman Beyond could happen, but I think they're gonna reevaluate because they have spin-offs. Joker is still happening. The Batman is still happening. I will not be surprised if Batman Beyond ends up becoming an Elseworld tale with Michael Keaton, and they just go, look, do your thing over here, get this done, because Keaton is going to get paid regardless. From what we understand, he signed a 5-contract deal that's payday regardless. So it's like, let's not
he was supposed to be like in Aquaman 2 originally.
Yeah. And Batgirl, obviously, that got scrapped, so it's a whole...
it's a messy mess.
It's a mess, all right. It's a mess.
I'm sorry, Michael Keaton. You don't deserve this.
A legend, the best Batman ever, the one that made Batman relevant, and here he is getting screwed over so many times.
I don't even think Michael Keaton and Ezra Miller has ever been in the same room together, because I'm pretty sure he would have stopped them.
Oh, well. We'll talk more about this, guys, when we know a little bit. We're now going to shift over to a little bit of MCU talk, because we're hearing that, look, MCU is apparently going to change direction. Allegedly, there's a lot of problems, I think is a good way to put it. They're cutting back on content. There's a lot apparently happening. We don't know the validity and all the rumors and everything. Again, make it what you will, but we're going to be getting less content and better content. So, I think that's good, right? Good, because I will say, I love the MCU. I don't love everything they've done, but like, there's problems with the MCU that I can admit to. CG and overworking everybody to the point where everything looks like it's a TV budget. Dude, there is scenes in Love and Thunder that I would be ashamed to put on a Disney original show. It is that bad. Like, it is...
Like, Armin, I agree, because Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness ain't a good-looking film either.
God, there is look.
Like, because, Armin, like, no lie, I believe that was the first time they showed the Avatar 2 trailer. Mind you, I saw this movie in 3D IMAX. I saw the 3D trailer for Avatar 2. I'm not a big Avatar fan, but I was like, oh my God, the 3D is amazing. And then you go to the 3D of Multiverse of Madness. I told my friend, I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
No, there is... Look, I mean, again, I've said it before, Multiverse of Madness and The Batman are my favorite films of the year. I love both of those, but I will not sit here and try to say that Multiverse of Madness does not have some I want to say like bad, shoddy CG. No, just garbage CG. There is some bad scenes in there. And again, look, Marvel Studios we know they are spread way too thin. There's too many things going on. It's a miracle that they put out as many projects as they did in the last couple of years. Like, it's just been oversaturated. Like, I'll say it.
I agree, because in our comic book group, when they shared they shared like an image. There was like, oh, here's my top Phase 4 projects, and it was like, yo, this is like almost 20 projects from Phase 4.
Yeah.
I was like, this is too much. I was like, I barely remember what happened in Phase 4 anymore.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, somebody was like, hey, Armin, post your list. So I was like, okay, let me go make my list. And I made it, and I posted. They were like, bro, you forgot 6 projects. I was like, what the hell did I forget? And then I looked at it, I was like, oh my God. Like, no, there is way too much Phase 4. I will criticize it clearly because I think they've had their share of problems and issues and everything that's going on. And again, it's not all like bad, but I do believe that they do need to cut it back, and I'm glad that they will. But there is also this, people are spinning the narrative, being like, oh, Bob Iger doesn't like the wokeness, that's why. It's like, bro, Bob Iger was there when they greenlit Captain Marvel, Black Panther, Miss Marvel. He was the one pushing for them. So
Bob Iger is Mr. Woke.
Yeah, look, he's literally the one that was there. So
it's Chapek.
Yeah, Chapek's the one you want to that's the one that should be getting all the blame, and rightfully so, is to be blamed. And again, I think that there is a lot of things happening with Marvel right now that are worth looking at and taking notes, because they got a little too big too quick, in my opinion. And they kind of like, they know that they weren't challenged, because who was going to challenge them? The DCEU? Like, come on.
Realistically, if we're like not talking about like nerd fandom, if we're talking about like Hollywood as a whole, there's literally hasn't been like an actual competition for the MCU, whether people like it or not. Because, for example, you got like people on social media is like, oh, the film didn't hit $1 billion, it's a flop. I'm like, bro, it's like there's a lot of films that can't even get close to 500 million. Black Adam, like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, look, we know that the goalpost for the MCU is 4 times any other film. Like, remember, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness this year is still being hailed as a failure, despite making over 850 million. Like, in what world it made 3.5 times Black Adam and it's a failure? I'm like, it doesn't. I get they're different standard, but again, different perception, right? Like, it's crazy.
So now, question for you: if regarding like cutting off like content we're in the MCU, what would you knock out? What would you knock out, the series or the movies? Would you want a balance of both? Okay. Two or two? Special presentations now? I don't know.
So looking at it right now, like my giant list of things, because I keep like a giant list of everything that's in development and going on. I think they already made one smart choice. Armor Wars, too big. Put that into a film. Smart. I think they are honestly going to assess this whole thing and look at it realistically and look at the whole situation and go, guys, we can't put out 4 movies and 6 TV shows a year because it's oversaturated. It's too much. So I think you're just going to see a natural bump back. Instead of like 4 movies a year, we're going to get 3 movies a year and 3 to 4 shows. So there's enough time, because like, again, I've talked about this and people still don't believe me. I am a Star Wars diehard. More of my house is covered in Star Wars than Marvel or anything else. I have still yet to watch Andor because it came out when so much other things were going on and happening that I haven't got a chance to start it, because like there's too much TV and too many movies. And I actively know people who are still diehard Marvel fans. They're still catching up. One of my best friends just now started Loki. That's how far behind he is because there's so much TV and movies. Like, there's too much content. They're going to, I think, spread it out. I don't think they cancel a whole lot, but I think you just kind of like, hey, remember how we announced the next 2 phases? We're going to add another I don't know, 8 months to that and spread it out a little bit more. Because, like, if you look at 2026, there was 5 movie dates. 5 movie dates.
Yeah, that's insane.
And that's before they took what's it called, Secret Wars, and bumped it back into the next year. That's too much.
All because of Blade.
All because of Blade has the power, man. It's the Blade techno. That's what's happening. So, yeah.
I would even suggest just stick with the special presentations, because like they did it's been like 2 already, and 2 like knocked it out of the park. I was like, look, if you could knock out a good storytelling in like less than an hour, I'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Because sometimes 6 episodes don't even feel like 6 episodes. You guys be like, here's an hour episode. It's just 10 minutes for that. Just make a special presentation.
Could you imagine if the holiday special was a series?
No.
Episode 1, Peter is sad. Episode 2, let's come up with a plan. Episode 3, we go to Earth and go to a nightclub and pass out on the street. Episode 4, chase Kevin Bacon.
On the phone.
Yep. And then episode 5, here's the meaning.
Talking on the ship.
Yeah, talking on the ship, and Peter says, "Thanks for this Christmas present." Like, bro, no. Like, they need to reevaluate that. So I'm glad that they're going to change direction and like analyze everything, because it's needed. It is. As a diehard fan, I can tell you there's too much going on, and they need to take a step back. So
if the MCU is already having me question, like, bro, do I have to watch all these TV shows and movies? Like, that's how you know. I was like, look, it's starting to get a little bit too much for me right now.
Agreed. So there we go. We wanted to just talk a little bit about Marvel changing directions and all that, and we'll talk more about it as we get more news, but it's probably going to happen. Next investors call, when we get Bob Iger on that phone and he's talking, that's when we'll talk about. Yeah, once Papa Iger drops the bombshells on what's changing, we'll talk. Speaking of dropping bombshells, it's now time. It's time to talk about Superman. Let's talk about Superman. Oh,
I mean, Henry Cavill can't get a break. He literally left The Witcher.
Yeah. It's okay. So, what can you
think they really recast him? Like who could honestly, like, I'd have no problem if they do a soft reboot, recast everybody.
Yeah.
But Henry Cavill has a pass because he has the curl in his hair. You'll never know.
Like, my whole thing is, like, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And here's the problem. You either recast half of them. So Aquaman is no longer Jason. It's Lobo. Wonder Woman, maybe the same, maybe not. We don't know. Batman, it's not Ben Affleck and it's not Keaton, so there's going to be a new actor. If you keep half the cast and half is recast or playing different roles, it's still confusing. It doesn't seem like a new thing, right? I understand why his future is up in question, because being tied down to a sequel to Man of Steel automatically will turn off a lot of people. At the same time, a lot of people want him to get a fair shot. So you have to, I think, gamble, and you have to go with whatever happens. I do believe he will play Superman. I just think it's going to be a reboot Superman. Like, hey, it's Henry Cavill, he's Superman. But forget Man of Steel. Zod's still out there. He might fight Zod someday, don't you worry. And he's not going to snap his neck, so you hate this film. Like, I think they're just going to reboot with Cavill and call it a day. Like,
that's why we got the Flash for, right? Just soft reboot his whatever, make him wear the undies, like figure it out. Because here's the thing, like I'm not, because I remember when I first watched Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, I was like, man, why do I want this monotone Henry Cavill playing Superman, like literally my favorite DC hero, one of my favorite top 3 heroes of all time. I was like, this is like, it's terrible. It's like, give me Christopher Reeve, give me Tom Welling again. But then, who would have thought that the Joss Whedon Justice League would give me a better Superman?
Yeah.
just for that Justice League film to be literally the failure. It sucks. So after watching that, I was like, I really would want to see Henry Cavill get that shot, because he's literally one of us. He's a nerd.
Yeah,
He knows more Superman than all of freaking Warner Brothers currently. Well, no, well now you got James Gunn as the helm or whatever, but still.
And that is the thing. Like, he's talked about it passionately, and Henry Cavill doesn't have to say, I hated the decisions made with Superman and Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, because he said it by what he said he would do with his Superman. And it's the complete opposite of everything. How many times has he come out and been like, one thing I hate about Superman is when he's angry, dour, and not smiling. Oh, I get what you're saying, Mr. Henry Cavill. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying. I think that there is gonna be more Superman with him. But I think the holdup currently is, and per the Hollywood Reporter, is they really need to look at how to approach this carefully, because every step they do now, all eyes will be on them. And believe it or not, we've seen it. More people right now want James Gunn to fail than ever before. And it's bad. It's really discouraging, but it's a thing. I mean, you've probably seen it. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, what do you think they do with Superman, then? Give me your honest opinion.
Soft reboot, keep Henry Cavill. Because I honestly don't know who could play current Superman. There's literally no actor that comes to mind unless you get lucky and pull from like the bottom of the barrel, get like a completely fresh new start into the career actor, Yeah. I'll be perfectly fine as long as he knows it. But like, for example, we could come up with 1 billion Batmans, 1 billion Wonder Womans, 1 billion Flashes, but it's hard to think about who could play a Superman.
The only thing I could think of, but then that would make things even worse, is like,
the show, Tyler.
You got Superman and Lois. He's freaking amazing, but if you pull him in, you then ruin that show and you screw up what you're doing with the DC universe. And technically, they could be like, hey, we can canon this show into it if we want, because it's the best reviewed thing and the best thing CW's ever made, but then that's a whole nother, can of worms that you have to dig into, and it's problematic. So anything you do with Superman, with anybody, whether it's the TV version or a live action version with Cavill, it's problematic. Hell, they could go far out there, be like, you know what we're doing? Let's bring back Brendan Routh. And it's like, okay, but why? Everything they do is a but why. They're like, Superman
the whole Brandon Routh thing is because Superman Returns is like in canon of Christopher Reeve's timeline. So then you have to be like, how did this? You're telling me Christopher Reeve's Superman is all like connected all along, and you'd be like, what?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
And that's a problem with Wonder Woman 84. Because that movie goes against everything the DCEU established. It's like, this thing cannot exist in this universe. How
Wonder
are
Woman
you trying?
flying? Get out of here.
No, it's just, no, none of that works. So, I guarantee you, Superman will be one of the first things James Gunn addresses when they lay out their new plan. When they do, we will talk about it. But for now, we're going to go on and talk about James. The final thing we got to talk about here is James Gunn releasing a statement where his statement reads like a confirmation, but you don't know the full story. So it's a weird thing that he published. Because again, it's worded in a very PR way where he's like, so what you heard is true.
That one.
Some of it's kind of off. Some of it's on the point. Some of it may be a lie, but I can't tell you anything yet for sure. Which is a confirmation that all that stuff is true to some degree. And it's an interesting and a hard one because, again, as we talked about in the entire podcast and what we're talking about here, he's got the biggest uphill battle where the first misstep he makes, it's over for him. They're going to put him on, on a pedestal and be like, well, he was here and now we're knocking him down so far that this is what you should have done, and this is what should have happened, and this and that. Like, it already happens, They use the Suicide Squad box office as an example. It's like, bro, that's not fair to that film. Like, when it came out right at the end of the pandemic era and all that, like,
man, DC fans don't even go watch the movies that they be praising.
It's true. It's true. I mean, like he's got this entire universe at his disposal, right? He's got to look at what he's going to push forward and what he's not going to. And when you realistically look at it, what would you, if you were in James Gunn's shoes, what do you push forward?
Superman has to come first.
Mm-hmm.
I would honestly put like the main front Justice League. You would have gotten like a Hawk Girl too. You would have gotten. I would have. Sometimes I like to look at the Justice League show, like the animated series, as the blueprint because they were able to do it in 2 whole episodes.
Yeah.
Of like introducing like all the characters. Like imagine just watching the show for the first time. You'd be like, "Wow, Martian Manhunter! Wow, Hawkgirl! Wow, Green Lantern!" Like everything just happens in like 2 episodes, and that's like what, like 23 minutes a piece.
Yeah.
If animated TV shows could pull stuff off when it comes to regarding like bringing characters that you're not familiar with, but you kind of know who they are, that's the route I would go for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Like, that's the thing. Like film is different than TV, yes, and also, he talked about and he confirmed in his statement, which people overlook quickly, which was rumors, and he's confirmed and hinted at multiple times. It's not just movies and TV; it's animated films, animated TV shows, and video games. All of it. And believe it or not, video games are going to be the hardest thing to produce here because a video game is going to take 3 to 4 years. Mm-hmm. It has to be in continuity. You can't suddenly shift the focus of a video game in the 11th hour. Like, the story's got to be locked in when you start production. So I think that they're being ambitious, sure. But I think they're ambitious to try to be bigger than the MCU could honestly backfire. Because we've seen it with Star Wars. Yeah. Star Wars is like, everything's got to be canon.
Yeah, which doesn't work anymore. It does not work.
No, it started off well enough, but now trying to keep up with the comics and everything and how you have to do certain things and mention things and then play around with other ideas, like, it just becomes a little bit more hard, if you will.
As Star Wars has become, like, we grew up with the whole EU thing, but I feel like with the way, like, sometimes with EU, sure, everything was canon, stuff was stupid, but like this one feels like everything's canon. Like, the stories do work, but it's gotten too oversaturated to the fact that you can't even like, have fun. Because I feel like, for example, you look at The Mandalorian, they'll be having like super deep lore, and you'd be like, "Oh crap!" It's like, where did this lore came from?
Yeah. It's you mentioned this whole Star Wars thing and the lore. I have so many friends, and they watch the movies, they watch the live action shows. They don't care about the Clone Wars cartoon, okay? I know people die on the altar that that's the greatest Star Wars thing and Bad Batch, this and casuals don't care, and it's in the views where Andor can get 10 million views on the first episode. Clone Wars, Rebels, barely gets 300,000, okay? It's a different medium, different audiences. I have friends who were literally like texting me, they're like, who the hell is Ahsoka? Why is she here? Why is she important? Should I know who she is? Why is my friend clapping and freaking out and crying? I'm like, bro, you're in for a completely different world if I start getting into this. Like, it's not the same thing. It's not.
How is Darth Maul alive? I thought he died in episode 1 back in 1999.
I legit had one of my friends who was watching the movie with me the second time we went. He sees that and he goes, wait a second. Solo takes place before episode 1? And I was like, oh, no. See, he's alive. He was like, how? I was like, well, see how he had robot legs? He was like, what the hell are you talking about? So I told him, I was like, okay, you got to go read Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir, and you got to go watch the Clone Wars. He was like, yeah, I'm out. He just did not care. It was like, nope, too much at once. And again, that's a thing. I think James Gunn means well.
Mm.
It's going to get real problematic real soon if they don't spell it out carefully. Because what one of your family members that you know that might be interested in watching the new Superman is going to be like, oh man, if I really want to know on why Green Arrow is showing up to help Superman with a Kryptonian arrow that he's going to shoot at Zod, I got to go watch the Green Arrow cartoon on Cartoon Network. What? No, like
you gotta be like, you gotta go to your local pharmacy because they have the Aquaman card set. We'll have the whole backstory about his character,
legit,
and how it ties into the upcoming Justice League movie. You're like, what?
Yeah, that's again a little problematic. We'll see what happens. Again, we'll talk more about this. James Gunn and Safran are presenting their DCEU thing apparently this week. So if we get any news, we'll obviously come back and talk about it. But that's kind of just what we want to cover with this topic specifically. And I guess the future of everything DC that we just talked about. Any other closing thoughts on this James Gunn and DC thing before we end it?
Bro, how does Blue Beetle tie into all this?
Oh, oof. Well, the good news is Blue Beetle can be good, and if it's not tainted by anything like a random Batman cameo that don't make sense, I think it's safe. Like, you know, it's.
Oh, you think James Gunn is gonna pick that boy up?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Like, a Blue Beetle leads to Booster Gold, and James Gunn likes Booster Gold. Therefore, Blue Beetle gets top priority. That's my way.
And now it makes you wonder now, like, where does Peacemaker season 2 come in? Where does the Suicide Squad 2 come in?
Yeah.
Anything with the 2 that James Gunn has touched, like, where does that tie into anything? Is Amanda Waller still gonna be Amanda Waller?
Yeah, my God, it's so confusing.
Is the Marvel versus DC game that possibly NetherRealms do, is that canon? Who knows?
Also, why did Amanda Waller not just call the Justice Society to stop Starro?
Oh God, Armin, what are you?
Black Adam, you got a problem here.
Are you telling me Dr. Fate could have handled Starro? What?
I may be inferring that they had no plan going into Black Adam or many things, but you know, what do I know? It's just kind of in the story there, so.
Right, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe Hawkman could have fought Starro and died there and probably resurrected. I don't know. You know, still Black Adam is funny, you know.
They could have dropped Torpedo Black Adam onto Starro.
Yeah, Justice Society.
Yeah. There we go. So yeah, James Gunn. We'll talk about him more. Yeah, that's officially brought us to the end of this show, everybody. We will have a members topic that's coming out right after this for members of the channel. We're going to discuss the, what we can frankly call the decimation of Den of Nerds by James Gunn, because this has taken on a life of its own, and we're going to talk about it for the members because it's a little bit more deeper than James Gunn just calls people out. This has been boiling, so we'll talk about that. Hopefully we see you guys there next podcast. The reason this one is late is because we wanted to see if there was going to be anything over the weekend. Sure enough, there was the Batman Beyond news and the James Gunn statement, which obviously fit well. So this next podcast might come out a little quicker, but we'll see what happens, and we'll be back next week. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Happy holidays. Whatever else is going on. Happy Avatar week. Yeah.
Oh no.
You gonna go see the blue people?
I don't want James Cameron to win.
You have to though. You have to.
No, because I bet you I'm gonna buy the ticket like on my mobile, and I'm gonna get like a video from James Cameron. It's like, I told you he was gonna buy and watch this movie, huh?
He's gonna be tracking when you got up to take a piss, and you come back, sit down in your seat. He's like, I got the ticket ready for you right here. Just pre-order it now so you can come back and watch the 3 minutes you missed, bro.
Oh no.
Because you're gonna need a piss, or you better have a large bucket, because that thing is like 3 hours and 20 minutes. So.
Oh god.
Yeah.
If I want to watch blue people in the water, I'll watch Wakanda Forever again.
That's 3 hours. It ain't much shorter.
Oh man, it doesn't matter. Leave me alone.
Underwater people deserve long movies, I guess. That's where there's no discrimination anymore against them.
Both under Disney.
Whoever wins, Disney wins, so it doesn't matter to them. Just let James Cameron do what he will, and we'll see. So, look, next podcast, I might talk a little bit about Avatar. We'll definitely talk about box office, because that's going to be an interesting factor. So, hopefully we see you guys there. And until next time, take care, everybody.